name is Yuta Otaki, 25 years old. I am a chef at the restaurant. This is a story that seems straight out of a movie, starting with a fateful introduction and an unimaginable ending. I started working in restaurants straight out of graduating high school, and my first job was at a Western restaurant where I spent 5 years cooking and learning. I'm now working at my family's Western restaurant. I came back here 2 years ago to help out my parents. My dad, Takahiro, is the head chef, and my mom, Fumiko, handles the front of the house as well as the accounting. Besides the three of us, we have 2 part-time employees who work at the front of the house, and it's a fairly small family business. I'm an only child, so ever since I was little, I was raised under the assumption that I would one day take after the restaurant. I helped my father in the kitchen from a young age, and I loved cooking with him, so I never thought twice about another career path. That was also because this restaurant that my family owned had been loved by the local community for many, many years. It was pretty famous, if I do say so myself, and our neighbors and our friends would often come for birthdays and other celebrations. Long story short, I loved this restaurant with all my heart. And ever since I was a little boy, I dreamed of the day that I would be working here with my parents. I wanted to refine my skills by working directly next to my dad, so I was hoping to take the reins in the near future. However, little by little, our customers stopped coming, and our sales were going downhill, and the reason for that was...
Your mom and I just went out for a meal there.
Oh, how was it?
The interior was pretty fancy. For an old couple like your mom and I, we didn't quite feel like we'd fit in, and it was a little unsettling. But I think that it would be a huge hit for the younger generation.
I see, and the food? How was it?
It wasn't bad. The cooking itself was just alright, but they're using better ingredients than I imagined. And the pricing is also reasonable.
Darn, I was really hoping that you'd at least say that the flavors were mediocre.
To be honest, I can see why a restaurant like this would be easier to walk into than an old place like ours.
Hey now, you can't admit defeat already. You just went by to check out the competition. It's not over yet, right?
That may be true, but I honestly don't see what we can do to compete. The dishes were all plated really nicely too, and they were all, what's that word again? Something grammable or whatever?
Instagrammable, yeah. That's true. These days a restaurant can get customers for that sole reason alone.
And it's something that our restaurant doesn't have. But you know, you're still a part of the younger generation, right? That Instagrammable thing, is that something that you could incorporate for us too?
Well, I'll try and think about it, but to be honest, I'm not really confident that I can do it. I've only studied cooking up until now, and I also don't really keep up with the trends these days.
But we need to do something. If we go on like this, it's really not looking good for us.
Yeah, I know. Our restaurant was a little bit of a walk from the nearest train station, but recently a new restaurant had opened up even closer to the station. They were also a mainly Western restaurant, but they had put a lot of effort into their interiors, and it seemed like a good spot for dates. Like my father mentioned, despite the reasonable pricing, they were using high-end ingredients. I did some research and found out that they were backed by a big chain restaurant corporation, and within the city they'd opened up over 10 stores. Because it's a popular chain, an independent family-owned business would be hard to compete against them. Our restaurant's customers are mainly our regulars, but because it's also in a slightly hidden location, we don't get that much foot traffic, and therefore we don't get that much new customers often. On the other hand, the new restaurants had a much more open and welcoming atmosphere, so it was probably really easy to walk into as a customer. And since it's so close to the train station, it's probably easy to get non-locals that don't live in this neighborhood too. To summarize, since most of our customers were locals from the neighborhood and our regular customers for many years, this restaurant would be taking all of our potential new customers that were already few and far between us. And to be honest, that was not good for us, and would put us in a very tight situation. We're barely getting by right now thanks to our regulars, but if we can't get any new customers in our door, it was certain that we would go broke. We couldn't just sit by and do nothing, so we gave a few ideas a try. I tried passing out flyers near the train station or giving incentives to our regulars for introducing new customers, and we even tried giving social media a try, although we barely knew how it worked. Our situation continued without much change though, and our competitor was doing the same type of marketing but twice, if not more, far better than we were. There was simply no way that a young chef's little efforts could compete with the momentum of a trendy new place backed by a large corporation. Then one day our restaurant had so few people coming in that we closed early, and I decided to drag my feet over to this place that was dragging us down. It wasn't necessarily for research, but I was hoping to find some kind of hint for us to crack the code. However,
Get out!
From the back door of the restaurant, I heard an unpleasant voice. I ran around to take a look, and that's when I saw— "You piece of trash! This isn't a place for people like you! You're not allowed here!"
I'm so sorry, bud.
Standing there was who I believed to be the head chef of the restaurant, and a young woman who looked quite rough, shaking behind him. The woman was soaked from head to toe in wine, and in the chef's hand was an empty bottle of cooking wine. It seemed like she was a homeless woman who was going through the trash can and he was trying to chase her away. But even then, it seemed excessive. I decided to get between them. "Excuse me, I don't know what's going on here, but that's not an okay thing to do. Standing up for garbage like her? You must be such a sucker. If you feel so sorry for her, then take her back with you, but far away from here." He spat this at me, and he went back inside of his own restaurant. I hurried over to the woman who was in shambles. Despite her rough and dirty look, she was a lot younger than I initially thought. She might even be younger than me. "Are you okay? You look completely soaked." It's not very often that you see a homeless person this young. I wondered what the situation might be. Did she run away from home? If she's underage, then I should report it to the police. I've had all these thoughts running through my head, but I was still not able to put them into words. Suddenly, this woman, who looked like she might be homeless, slowly stood up, and she started to approach me.
I'm so sorry for this inconvenience. I'll be going now.
She said as she tried to leave. To be fair, there wasn't much I could do for a homeless person. However, for some reason, I felt like I couldn't just leave her alone. And without thinking, I blurted, "Wait!" I stopped her and then hurried over to give her a piece of paper. "Here, this is my messenger ID. If you don't have a cell phone, then you can call this number. It's small, but my family runs a Western restaurant down the road. If you ever need help, come and find me and I'll see what I can do. Don't hesitate, okay?" It almost seemed like I was hitting on her, but I gave her my contact information. She seemed flustered and continued and ran off immediately. But she did take the piece of paper with her. And the next day—
Hi, I'm the girl that you met yesterday in the trash pit. Do you remember me?
"Hello, yes, of course. I'm honestly relieved to hear from you."
I hate to be such an inconvenience to someone I only met once, but I don't have anyone else that I can rely on, and—
"No worries at all. I'm the one who gave you my contact information in the first place. By the way, what's your name?"
I'm Shiho Uchachi.
"My name is Yuta Otaki. Nice to meet you. Do you mind if I ask how old you are?"
I'm 17.
17 years old? You're still a minor.
Yes.
What about your parents?
I don't know. We got into a fight and I haven't seen them since.
So does that mean that you ran away from home?
I guess so. Maybe I should have reached out. It was silly of me to rely on a stranger.
No, and now that I know that you're a minor, I especially can't just leave you like this.
But I can't have you calling the police either. I can't go home right now due to some reasons.
Okay, well, you don't have anywhere to go right now, right?
Yes, that's right.
Well then, why don't you come to our place for now? I live with my mom and my dad, so you won't be stuck alone with me or anything.
But—
And I won't call the police, I promise.
okay, thank you so much. Truly.
Where are you now?
I'm at Rookie Park.
Alright, I'll be there soon, so wait there.
My cell phone battery's about to die. But even if you can't get in touch with me, I promise I'll be there, so please don't worry.
Alright, I'll be there in around 15 minutes, okay? I knew that it was a risk to give her my contact information, but little did I know that that decision would change our lives. For the time being, I wanted to help this lost girl, and I hurried over to find her in the park. I found Shiho on a park bench, in the same dirty clothes from yesterday, which meant that it was still covered in wine. "Shiho, does that mean that you've been in those clothes this whole time? You need to take a shower, come with me." It may have been April and spring already, but the mornings and nights were cold. She could have easily gotten sick in that state, so I rushed over to get her to my house.
Yuta? Who is that? What happened to her?
She's so dirty! What have you done?
I'll explain later. Her name is Shiho. Mom, can you please show her where the shower is?
You better explain everything to me.
I will, but first just let her get in the bath, and I'll cook something for her.
I'll help you.
With my dad's help, we were able to prepare a meal in an instant. Shiho came out of the shower.
Thank you very much.
No, sure, as long as you're feeling refreshed. I stumbled on my words. I couldn't tell in her ratty and homeless-looking state, but after washing up and wearing normal clothes, she was actually quite a beautiful girl.
Shio was such a cute girl. I'm glad we were able to change her clothes for her.
That outfit is from when you were younger. I'm surprised you still have it and that it looks this great.
You know, I always wanted to have a daughter.
Gee, guys, come on now. You can talk about that later. Shiho must be starving. We had Shiho sit down at the dining room table and laid out the food for her.
Is this omurice?
Yeah, it's one of our specialties. I hope you like it. She nodded her head and with the spoon in her hands started eating. At first she hesitated with the small bites, but before we knew it, she was shoveling the food into her mouth. She must have been hungry. I wonder when her last meal might have been.
Wow, it's so yummy. Thank you so much.
As she was eating, tears started to stream down her face. I could only imagine how she had been living for the past week. Once she was done eating, I sat down next to her and asked her to tell me more about her situation. It wasn't rare for high school girls to run away from home, but no matter how you looked at it, she doesn't seem like such a rebel. I imagine there must have been some deep reason, but the story that came out of her mouth was beyond our wildest imagination.
How is it going?
It seems like it all went well. How is the reaction online?
It's blowing up. It's been all over the news. The company's name is trending on social media too.
I went to go look at the restaurants earlier today, but they were closed, even though it should be the busiest time of the middle of the day on a weekend.
That's true. But it's become this big of a deal that it makes sense.
It seems like the sanitation department has opened an investigation too, so everything should be fine now.
Thank you so much.
By the way, are you sure this was okay?
Yes, this is perfect. I've always had a bad relationship with my dad for a long time now.
I see. Well, I guess that just because you're family doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get along.
Once everything calms down, I'm sure there will be a day when we can talk about it, but that will probably be impossible for now.
If you have nowhere else to go, you're more than welcome to stay with us.
Are you sure? That's a lot to ask.
Of course, at this point, it wouldn't make a difference. My mom loves you already, too. If anything, I think they'd be more sad if you were to leave.
That makes me really happy to hear. Thank you so much, truly, for everything. If it weren't for your help and your parents' support, I wouldn't have been able to come this far.
But that's all because of your efforts and hard work. We didn't do much, we just wanted to support you however we could.
Even still, I'm so grateful to the three of you.
That famed new restaurant that was stealing all of our new customers ended up closing, followed by all the other restaurants that were involved in that chain. It caused quite the commotion on the news, too. The reason for that is that they were committing food fraud and deceiving their customers across all of their restaurants. Essentially, they were using extremely cheap ingredients while claiming that they were high-end. When my parents and I heard this, we were shocked but not that surprised. No wonder they were pushing the narrative of high-end ingredients so much. It all made sense. For better or for worse, if you're told that they're using good ingredients, unless you have an expert tongue, anyone would think, wow, I get to eat at a place this good at this price? And be impressed. Although it was only a matter of time before the truth would come out. That wasn't all though. They were using expired ingredients and expired seasoning. And upon further investigation, their sanitary standards across all the restaurants were abysmal. Because of this, the sanitation department got involved and had a full-launch investigation, resulting in all of the restaurants being forced to close. And the catalyst of all this coming to light was Shiho and me. It turns out that Shiho is actually the daughter of the president of the corporation that was backing all of these restaurants. She was working part-time at one of his restaurants when she caught on to the food fraud that was going on. She reported it to her father Koichi immediately, but his response was not what she expected.
This isn't a place for a small little girl like you to open your mouth!
But Dad...
It's not like anyone can taste the difference anyway, so there's no problem. And look at this! Even the famous celebrity food blogger Watari has given us rave reviews!
Yeah, but still.
If we're able to keep on deceiving them, then I don't see any problems here!
That was his stance, and he refused to listen to Shiho. Shiho, on the other hand, still refused to accept this and still tried even harder to reason with her father, but...
Please, Dad, think this over. We can't keep doing this. Otherwise, one day it's gonna blow up in our faces. You know that food can kill people if it's not taken care of properly. We can't keep doing this.
Shut up! If you don't like the way we're doing things, then you can leave! Get out! And don't even think about showing your face here ever again!
And kicked out of the house. No matter the reason for this fight, kicking out a 17-year-old high school girl from your house is unacceptable as a parent. The reason why she was in the trash pit of that restaurant wasn't because she was scavenging for food, but it was actually because she was looking for evidence for the illegal activities that happened. And that was when she met me. When she explained everything to me, with my parents' help, we went to the Department of Sanitation to file a complaint, and did whatever we could to help Shiho bring justice to her father's restaurants. In perfect timing, there were a number of cases of food poisoning being claimed at some of the restaurants, and it all became clear in an explosive story. They were lucky that they hadn't caused anything worse than food poisoning until now. For what it's worth, on social media, even the celebrities that have been praising and promoting the restaurants were being cancelled. And the commotion stretched not only across the restaurant industry, but also the entertainment industry. Food blogs that were promoting the restaurants were suspected of having backdoor connections with the restaurants, and the flames just kept on getting bigger and bigger. It looks like it's gonna be a while before the fires calm down. Of course, the restaurant chain was completely bashed, and they had 0 customers anywhere and were forced to close permanently. On top of that, they were sued by the customers who experienced food poisoning and also the food blogs who would receive the backlash. And were left with an even higher cost of damages to pay. It's not looking good for anyone involved. Along with the businesses all closing, the company was also facing the lawsuits. So it's only a matter of time before they all go completely bankrupt. According to my dad's calculations, it's most likely that it won't just end in bankruptcy and they'll have to go into debt. On the other hand, when it comes to Shiho, we ended up taking her into our family for the time being. Her father was not only a terrible person, but he was about to disappear into the lawsuits. Just as my dad predicted, he went into debt in the millions, and we don't know what happened to him since. We can only imagine that he's stuck in a hell now where he wishes that he was dead. Her mother got a divorce but had nowhere to go. And in order to evade any responsibility for the businesses, she also disappeared. Since Shiho didn't have any other family around who could take care of her, we went into the family court and my parents became our legal guardians.
Everyone, thank you from the bottom of my heart for welcoming me like this. You took a chance at a complete stranger, and I'm so grateful to you all. I'm going to become independent as soon as possible so I don't cause any further inconvenience to you all, and...
Oh, don't be silly, Shiho. Stop being so stiff. We want you to think of us as your family and to treat us as such. That's all we want, and we'll continue to support you however we can.
Exactly, and I'm thrilled to finally have a daughter. You're making my dream come true too.
Welcome to the family, Shiho.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Shiho officially moved into our house, and now she even helps out at the restaurant. After the other restaurants collapsed, ours took the opposite turn and has been going uphill since. The reason for that was because Shiho was strong at social media, and she helped us set up an Instagram and Twitter account for the restaurant. And it doesn't hurt that she's also so cute that she became the face of our restaurant on social media. And now some of her fans will come to the restaurant just to see her. Shiho also came up with the idea of an Instagrammable menu so that we could attract more younger audiences. When she put this up on the social media pages, she included coupons and campaigns, and it was all a huge success. We were all able to evade the competition of the other restaurants, while also increasing our own sales. We could think of Shiho as the savior and goddess of our restaurant. A year has passed and Shiho has become a full part of the family. She insisted that instead of going to college, she wants to stay and work full-time at the restaurant.
Wow, knowing that you'll be a part of this family business makes me so happy, and I'm more confident than ever about our future.
As for your future, I can only hope that someday you'll become Yuta's wife.
Mom, stop making jokes like that, it's embarrassing. Plus, there's no doubt that a girl as cute as Shiho is too popular anyway.
That's true.
Well, I'll definitely think about it.
Really? You'd consider it?
Oh, honey, did you hear that?
Of course I did. Should we make a full-course meal tonight to celebrate?
Mom, Dad, cut it out! We're not even dating and my parents had already jumped 100 steps ahead. In 5 years' time, Shiho and I would actually get married. But that would be a story for another time.